hall was filled with glittering gowns and polished shoes, but the moment a young black musician stepped onto the stage, the whispers started. "Who let him play here?" One guest muttered, clutching her pearls. "This is unacceptable," another scoffed, pushing back his chair. One by one, powerful millionaires stood up and walked out. Humiliated, the musician froze, his hands trembling over the keys. But what he played next, after that cruel silence, would change everything. So why did a single performance leave even his enemies in tears? Elias Carter was just 26, a gifted pianist who had spent more nights practicing than sleeping. By day, he taught neighborhood kids in a cramped community center with an old, slightly out-of-tune piano. By night, he dreamed of stages he never thought he'd touch. Music wasn't just sound to Elias, it was survival. It was how he escaped the sting of poverty, the looks people gave him when he walked into certain places, the unspoken words that hung in the air. So when an invitation came to perform at a millionaire's private gala, Elias couldn't believe it. He held the envelope in his hands, staring at the embossed gold letters. "They must have made a mistake," he whispered. His best friend shook his head. "No mistake, Eli, this is your chance. Show them who you are." For days, Elias practiced until his fingers ached, pouring his soul into every note. He pictured the chandeliers, the polished floors, the audience of people who rarely saw musicians who looked like him on their stages. And yet deep inside a question gnawed at him. Would they accept him or just tolerate him? The night of the gala arrived. Elias stood backstage, heart pounding, his crisp white shirt sticking slightly to his back. He could hear the laughter of wealthy guests, the clink of crystal glasses. He straightened his jacket, whispered to himself, "This is it. Don't mess it up." But what Elias didn't know was that before he could even play a single note, the room would turn against him. The grand ballroom shimmered under chandeliers, every corner polished to perfection. The scent of expensive perfume and champagne floated in the air. Elias clutched the edge of the piano bench, his heart racing. He had barely sat down when the first voice pierced the room. "Wait, is he the entertainment?" A woman's sharp tone carried across the tables. Heads turned. Murmurs spread like wildfire. Elias felt his chest tighten. He hadn't even touched the keys. A man in a tailored tuxedo leaned back in his chair, sneering. "This isn't some street bar." "We came for class," laughter followed, low but cruel. Elias stared at the polished keys, forcing his trembling hands to stay still. He wanted to disappear, but the spotlight made that impossible. "Play something," another guest mocked, clinking his glass. "Let's see if he can do more than shine shoes." The words hit Elias like stones. He swallowed hard, whispering to himself, "Stay calm, just play." But before he could begin, chairs scraped against the marble floor. One by one, wealthy guests began standing. Some muttered excuses, others didn't bother. A woman in pearls stood abruptly. "I refuse to sit through this." The host, Mr. Whitmore, a graying millionaire with icy eyes, watched silently, lips pressed thin. He didn't stop them. He didn't defend Elias. He simply let the exodus happen. Elias's vision blurred as row after row of glittering gowns and dark suits marched toward the exit. His dream stage was emptying before his eyes. From the corner of the room he heard someone whisper, "Pathetic." He should know his place. His fingers hovered above the keys, but he couldn't bring himself to press down. Every ounce of preparation, every sleepless night of practice seemed to collapse under the weight of humiliation. A waiter passing behind him murmured softly, almost like a lifeline, "Don't stop, sir. Play. Some of us came to listen." Elias blinked. His breath steadied. Not everyone had left, though the remaining faces were few, and most watched with skepticism, waiting for him to fail. In that fragile moment, Elias faced a choice: walk off the stage with dignity or pour his soul into a performance for people who had already judged him unworthy. The silence stretched, heavy, suffocating. Then came the cruelest jab yet. From near the door, one departing guest laughed aloud. "This'll be a short concert." Elias's jaw clenched. His hands shook, not from fear this time, but from anger. He lowered his fingers to the piano. The sound of ivory meeting flesh echoed faintly in the quiet room. But what he played first, no one was prepared for. Elias's first chord struck like thunder, deep, resonant, shaking the silence that had hung in the air. The few guests who remained exchanged uneasy glances, some folding their arms, others whispering under their breath. But Elias didn't stop. His hands flew across the keys, faster, fiercer, every note carrying the weight of the humiliation he had just endured. He poured in the pain of being ignored, the sting of whispers that followed him since childhood, the fire of years spent proving he belonged. A woman at the back muttered, This isn't what I expected." Another leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "Listen to him." The room shifted. Those who had been waiting for him to fail now found themselves caught in something raw, something undeniable. The music rose, aching and beautiful, then crashed into furious waves, a storm in sound. Elias's vision blurred with tears as he played, but his body moved with power he didn't know he possessed. Each note was a cry, a scream, a refusal to be silenced. And then, just as his hands slammed into a final crescendo, the ballroom doors opened. Several guests who had stormed out earlier stood frozen in the doorway, pulled back by the force of the music. Their expressions, once mocking, were now shaken, even ashamed. One man whispered to another, He's extraordinary. But Elias wasn't playing for them anymore. He was playing for every child who had been told they weren't enough, for every door closed in his face, for his younger self, sitting at a broken piano in the community center, dreaming of this night. The final notes hung in the air, trembling like a held breath. Silence followed, so heavy it hurt, and then, from the very corner of the room, a single pair of hands began to clap, slowly, deliberately. Elias froze, staring at the sound, his heart hammering. Would they applaud? Or would this moment be stolen from him too? The clapping grew louder. One pair of hands turned into two, then three, until the sound filled the ballroom. Guests who had mocked him moments before were now on their feet, some with tears glistening under the chandelier lights. Elias sat frozen at the piano, unsure if he should feel vindicated or furious. Their applause rang hollow, because they hadn't defended him when it mattered. They had walked out when his skin color was all they could see. Mr. Whitmore, the host, finally approached the stage. His voice, steady but strained, carried across the room. That was the most powerful performance I've ever heard. Elias looked up, his jaw tight. Funny, he replied softly. How many people had to leave before they could hear it? The words cut through the air like glass. Silence followed, heavier, sharper than before. Elias stood, bowed briefly, and walked off the stage. That night, he didn't leave with fame or fortune. He left with something far more important, the knowledge that his music had forced even the most stubborn hearts to listen, if only for a moment. But the truth is, Elias's story isn't rare. Across the world, countless voices are silenced before they can even be heard, judged not by talent, but by the color of their skin. So here's the question we must face. Why does it take pain, humiliation, and defiance for dignity to finally be recognized? Elias played through their prejudice and left them in tears, but not everyone gets that chance. And maybe that's the challenge we're left with, to make a world where no one has to fight this hard just to be seen as human. Because if a single performance could break their walls for one night, imagine what could happen if we truly listened. If this story touched you, like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more powerful stories the world needs to hear.